All right, we'll start. Daria, thank you for being here. I appreciate it, taking time of your day to be here.
No
And
problem. No problem.
and it's been a while since we've seen each other, but how have you been? How's life been for you?
Man, it's been good. I'm a full-time artist. Not stay at home mom, but stay at home wife part
Yeah.
time. Other than that, I got married last October. Just been enjoying the married life, art life, and just really striving to be great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I know that when we worked together, you were kind of on the fence of doing your art full time or pursuing that full time. But now that you're here, if I had told you, hey, in a couple years you're gonna be doing it full time, would you had believed that?
I wouldn't have believed it, but I would have been like real excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel that that's something that whether we're at this place that we're at now,
hmm
if someone told us, hey, in a couple years you're going to be doing your passion, you're going to be doing your craft full time, a lot of us won't believe it. And that's something that I heard, and I was like, it's crazy, because if somebody told me now, hey, in a couple years you're going to be doing that thing that you want to do, and
Yeah.
I'll talk about that later, because my dreams are kind of crazy. um I'll talk to Deanna how I'll tell Deanna how I want to own a bison farm. And it's like, why? Yeah,
Really?
exactly, why a bison farm. Yeah, so I tell her how I want to own a bison farm on 400 acres in Wyoming and take a picture and be like, that's a flex. But it's just it's crazy. But yeah, and it's crazy how I kind of saw you there, when we were working together. Now the person that you are now, and that motivates me to
Yeah.
keep growing, to keep evolving. And even if we're afraid sometimes, and sometimes we just have to take that step. But like we were talking, sometimes you kind of have to take calculator risks.
hmm
And that's something that, as now that I'm married with a daughter and a wife, that's something that I have to take to account. If I want to take risks, if things that I want to do, I have to take them smart, because I can't put them in jeopardy, or like
Right.
our finances in jeopardy, just to kind of do something that I want to pursue head on. But so how did you get to the point that you are now, to being able to do your art full time? How was that journey for you?
Man, my journey was pretty tough.
Yeah.
I was working full time at a cancer institute, and I was making good money. And also prior to that, I had been going to different colleges, community colleges, universities, thinking that I was supposed to be pursuing a medical degree, basically. I just never felt like I was living up to my full potential, like just having that moment. And then, we worked in the same restaurant.
Yeah.
So even then, like just coming in there every day, you just like, man, it's gotta be, more to this. Like
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
this isn't just, this isn't everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, worked at Cancer Institute, ended up leaving. It was a really good job, but I remember literally like every day just going there
Yeah.
and sitting inside of this small cubicle, and I would get so antsy because I'm just
Yeah.
like, man, I just want to be creative.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
want to sit here and look at a computer screen
Yeah.
all day. So yeah, I ended up leaving. I was just like, I got to make a decision, and I just really want to make myself happy.
Yeah.
Now, I did leave too soon.
Yeah.
I should have waited. I should have waited till I made the amount of money, that I know
Yeah.
I should have before I took that leap.
Yeah.
But I mean, God graced me. And he gave me a husband that looked out for me and supported my dream. And now I'm flourishing.
Yeah.
So it's been some little trials,
Yeah.
tribulations, kind of throughout the journey. But
And
yeah,
I feel that we talked about this as married people, as marriage is one of those things that you kind of have to learn, and you grow
yeah,
together as you go. And you said that he supports you, and that's awesome, because that's something that I had to learn.
hmm
Because I would have my dreams, my goals, but I never really asked my wife, "Hey, what are your goals? What do you want to do? What's your
Yeah.
passion?" And it can be really selfish, because I would be like, "Oh, these are our goals as a family," kind of thing. But individually, I never really asked her. And as time goes by, you kind of learn that marriage is something you always have to work at and
Right.
keep growing,
Yeah.
keep learning about your spouse,
Hmm.
keep because we all change, and that's just facts. We change over years. We change our ideals, kind of thing. And but we have to be able to keep changing together
Yeah.
and not changing at the opposite directions.
Hmm.
And that's something that I had to learn. And it's awesome that your husband supported you,
Yeah.
because that's important. Because even if you do have a passion, your goals, and you don't have whether it's your husband or just a support system, it's definitely harder.
It is. It
But
is. And I
yeah,
even with working like what you said, how
yeah,
you want to support, into your wife, like that's what motivates me. But
yeah,
because he helped me get to a certain point in life, like in my career, I want to give back to him. Even
yeah,
though I'm the wife,
yeah,
like I want to, to be the one to help out and to, give him gifts
yeah,
and, just, little things, say that I did it,
yeah, yeah,
just because he was my support system.
yeah.
So that
And
motivates me.
so, my wife, we have a detached garage, and she talked about how she wanted to change it up, make it her own space.
Oh
And
wow.
at first, I I'll be honest, I didn't. It's not that I didn't want to support her. I just didn't know her vision,
Yeah.
and I didn't. I just didn't support her blindly, in a sense.
Yeah.
So I saw her put the time in painting it, getting furniture, all this stuff.
Wow, she was really investing.
Yes, she was. And then at some point, I started seeing her vision. It went back to that. I started communicating with
Yeah.
her. Well, what's your vision? What's your goal with this? And she just wanted a space where she can bring people there, hang out, talk about issues as women,
Wow.
as mothers, and just being able to have a sense of support, and just
Community.
as a group, just once they're there, be able to help other people.
Yeah.
So once we talked about that and I saw her vision, I started supporting her more. And she just finished it. And it looks awesome.
Wow.
And when I saw it and I told her, I was like, "Hey, it looks good." She was like, "Are you gonna cry?" And I was just emotional
Yeah.
because at the beginning, I it's not that I didn't want to support her, but I just didn't see her vision like she did.
Yeah.
And now, when with the podcast and stuff, she supports me so much, and it motivates me to keep going. And that's true for marriage, like just being able to support each other
Yeah.
for whatever it is, and just encouraging one another, and realize, like you said, we're two imperfect people
Mm-hmm. We're
working
two
at that.
flawed
Yeah,
individuals.
yeah. But so then you quit, and then what happened after that?
I quit. I wouldn't say I hit rock bottom. Like I still had provision. I was still making a way. I still had my gigs, art
Yeah,
gigs, painting gigs. I started off my business on Mosoul Arts
yeah,
LLC. So I kind of went the difficult route. I had
yeah,
to find out how to, handle my business
yeah,
licenses, registration, like all these,
yeah.
different things. Um oh, also, I forgot to mention this. The crazy thing is, on the transition from leaving the institute to actually going full time, I took on a painting gig, right?
Hmm.
So this woman, she tried to make me something that I wasn't, more of a contracting artist instead of an
Mm,
actual, painter.
yeah.
Um, she had me painting walls, wanted me to do more construction work, home projects and stuff like that. And just really long story short, I got so discouraged because in that process, like while I was working with this woman, everything that I did, she said she hated it.
Yeah.
And she said I was a terrible artist. Not just that, but all my payments, the payments that she had made to me, she reversed them through PayPal. So like just think like when
Yeah.
you leave, your career
Yeah.
to do something full time, what
Yeah.
you love to do, and you go through something like this.
Yeah.
Like at that moment, I was just like, man, will they take me back?
Yeah.
So, but I had to keep pushing.
Yeah.
I already left. I already knew that was something that I wanted to do. It was
Yeah.
something that I had to do because I've always had a passion for helping people. And I knew that my talent and my gift was with my hands through art.
Yeah.
So that encouraged me to keep going, to put that in the past. Crazy thing is, when I did, I got my money back.
Oh,
So, but I don't know. I ended up starting my own business. I got services, products, holistic products.
yeah.
I'm a Christian artist, so I do work, in the
Yeah.
church, outside of the church. I try not to let the church define me
Yeah.
and my work,
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just doing, art everywhere.
Yeah.
I got a mural on the Parkway,
Yeah, I saw
North
that. That's
Parkway.
awesome.
Yeah, so
And you said how you're a Christian, but you don't let the church define you. NF, this rapper NF, which I love, but he says he's a Christian rapper,
yeah,
but he doesn't market himself as a Christian rapper.
right,
And he says plumbers that are Christian don't market themselves as Christian
exactly,
plumbers.
yeah.
They're like, Christian is who I am, but it's not something that I label
Yeah, because
myself
how
as.
are you gonna pull the people that
Yeah,
need to,
yeah. Because and it's like your beliefs and stuff. But
Exactly.
yeah, and that's good. But the mural, how did you land that mural? How did that go about?
Man, I ended up doing some work for my pastor.
Yeah.
And I said I wasn't gonna charge him. And
Uh-huh.
I said that I wasn't gonna charge him because I knew that this was gonna be sowing the seed.
Yeah.
And I knew that I was gonna get something back for
Yeah.
it. Not he still, paid me.
Yeah.
Just to, look out for me
Yeah.
because he's kind of like a spiritual father to me. But I said I even told my husband, I was like, I'm not charging
Yeah.
him because I feel like something's big gonna happen
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
this. I ended up doing a mural for his shop, for his boutique. And I believe Devin Keith, he ended up seeing it
Uh-huh.
and he was like, wow, like this is dope. Like we need something like this in Huntsville.
Yeah.
So they ended up reaching out to me. And they told me, they was like, hey, you gotta go through the process and everything, but we really want to see like, how this works
Yeah.
out. And and this was back like last year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a long process to
Yeah.
get to doing this mural. But I went through the process. I had to sort of kind of, compete against, other artists and
Yeah.
all, and they had to check out my work, and I had to, work with the city of Huntsville, to get it done. But yeah, it all started with like
Yeah.
sowing the seed.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when I kind of saw you posting about it, but then when I saw Tommy Battle within posting on like
Yeah.
the site, I was like, yo, that's
Yeah,
that's
I
something
was so
special.
nervous.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny though? A lot of people don't know because I started on this mural, I want to say in June or July, if I'm not mistaken. At the end of April, I ended up getting COVID.
Oh, really?
Man, when I'm telling you, I thought I wasn't gonna make it.
Yeah.
I ended up getting sick. It was terrible. I had to quarantine. I had to do all of that. And as soon as I found out that I was negative, and after quarantining,
Yeah.
I told them, I was like, hey y'all, I'm ready. Let me
Yeah.
get out
Yeah.
there. Let me get the work in. Let me
Yeah.
start painting. And because, this was the time where Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
protests, and black men were getting killed and everything. And I was just like, this is something that the community
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get out there, and they told me, it was like, hey, wait till June or July, and
Yeah.
we'll go ahead, we'll get you out there. But yeah, I was sick, man, like right
So
before.
so so you haven't been out there to finish it yet?
No, I'm finished.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
I'm saying
That's
that
okay.
was in the midst of me actually
Oh, okay.
starting
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah, so I ended
crazy.
up getting sick at the end of April, but I ended up starting it
Yeah.
in June or July, and I
Yeah.
finished it like 3 weeks after.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw that, and like again, seeing you progress and keep growing as an artist, I'm like, man, I remember when we had those conversations, and it's
Yeah.
like, man, this is what I want to do, but and and I feel that as whether it's art or just different industries, there isn't a concrete path. and
No.
and as individuals, you kind of have to figure it out.
Hmm.
Hey, what are the steps that I have to take to in there? And again, sometimes you might face things that are difficult, or like, hey, I didn't really plan for this or anything like
Hmm.
that. and just realize, hey, just because I'm right here now, that's not where I'm going to be. It's just the transition.
Exactly.
And yeah, and even back when I was at TDB, like a lot of people just worked because they needed a job, and I did too, in a sense. But at a point in my life, I was like, hey, all these jobs that I have, all these people that I meet, I'm gonna try to learn something from them.
Exactly.
And one thing that TDB showed me is the ability to, one, not be afraid to speak to strangers,
Yeah.
and even like classy ones. You would get classy people in there,
Mhm.
and then two, the ability to sell.
Yeah.
Just and that's something that I guess for you as an artist, you have to keep selling yourself, and
Exactly.
learning, well, who am I and how am I going to sell myself. um and another thing, you said you did your a piece for your pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you did it for, like, for free.
I
You
did
weren't
it
going
for
to charge
free.
them. And I feel that when we're beginning at whatever we want to do, I feel that that's something that we have to do. Be able to,
Exactly.
like, offer value, because we're in a society where we're just asking all the time, hey, can you
Exactly.
do this for me? Can you check this out or whatever? And being able to offer value first, hey, I'll
Mhm.
do this. And like you said, you knew that something will come from this.
Exactly.
And just being able to do stuff for people, and it's like, hey, I know this will turn into a long-term
Mhm.
relationship and not just like a paycheck, or something
Or
short.
someone trying to get in over on you. You
Yeah,
got to discern it.
yeah, that's awesome. But when did you figure out that you wanted to paint? When did you figure that out? Like, was it something you kind of gravitated towards on your own, or
Yeah.
was it something that you were pushed to, or was something that you kind of discovered?
Man, I was how old was I? I think I was like 5. I was
Oh, really?
5 years
Yeah,
old in my big mama's house. It's my grandma.
yeah,
In Mansfield, Louisiana. She would have these, like those old portraits from
uh huh,
like back in the day that people used to get. She would
yeah,
have like just portraits all around the house of like my great uncles
yeah,
and great grandmothers
yeah,
and such. And I would just 5 years old, I
yeah,
would be like, Big Mama, can I draw
yeah,
that? And so I would literally go picture by picture,
yeah,
like trying to draw it, trying to get it right. I can never get it
yeah.
right, but that's where my creativity started in my,
That's
my
awesome.
grandmother's den. And really just ever since then, like I like writing, anything that was just me just being
Be
creative.
creative. Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing it. I ended up going to high school in Decatur,
Okay.
Alabama, and I had an art teacher there, and she pushed me like
Yeah.
that. And to be honest, I'm a self-taught artist, but despite of all that, that was the only art class I
Yeah.
had.
That's
so
crazy.
so yeah, I started in Louisiana, ended up coming up here,
Yeah.
had an art class, and I don't know, it was just kind of like, wow, like this is dope. Like
Yeah.
this is what I'm good at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's always something that you're good at
Yeah.
doing. So that's how it started.
That's awesome. And I feel that for a lot of people, we don't. So for me, I'm not creative at all. Not creative at all. Like
Girl,
my,
come on, look at this.
but yeah. So my wife loves to paint, and
Hmm.
she when if she had a hard day at work or just stressful, she's like, hey, can I just paint? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. But there's a couple times she's invited me to paint with her. So I was like, all right, we'll
I
try
gotta see
this.
these
And
painted.
and so for me, I'm not creative in that aspect.
Yeah.
To be able to come up with something in my mind and then transition it to a canvas. But me being the moron that I am, I'm like, oh yeah, like I came up with a mind. I was like, oh, just a landscape or something, and I'll mix some colors. And I thought,
You just
and
went in there for
yeah,
it.
so she came up with her idea, and then she's like, "What are you making?" So at the end of the day, my landscape looked like the earth was on fire, like my grass was black. I'll show you
So
the
you
painting
trying to
afterwards. It's
end
over
the
there.
world. Like,
And it
what
was
is this?
terrible. And she was like, "Wait, what is that?" She couldn't even tell it was a landscape. And I was like, "Yeah, this
She didn't
isn't for
encourage
me."
you or
No,
anything.
no, like she literally, yeah, this isn't for you. So I was like, yeah. And she just loves to do it. She's
Yeah.
creative, and that's something that I want to keep encourage her in. But yeah, it's crazy because some people, can start doing something and then realize,
Mhm.
hey, I'm actually good at this.
Yeah.
Like this is my thing.
Especially when nothing else works.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially like when I was younger, like my grandma made me go into piano class.
Wow.
So me and my brothers took piano for like maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mhm.
I didn't like it. And now you would think after that you're like, oh, I'm getting good at this. If I told you it would be piano class on Saturday, mom was like, "Hey, it's piano class." I'll be practicing 15 minutes before class. Like, yeah, it was something
Wow.
that I would never like liked. And then later on, they made us do guitar,
Oh
and
wow.
I was like, we did guitar for like maybe another 2 years, and it was again, I liked it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, and
Yeah.
it's hard because a lot of times we get pushed towards things we don't want to do.
Exact. But I mean, you gotta thank God for him though,
Yeah.
because it leads you to what you want to
Yeah,
do.
and that's it. Because a lot of people that I hear speaking, they're like, "Oh, what I don't know what I want to do." Well,
Yeah.
try different
Yeah. Try
things.
it. Try
Yeah.
everything.
This guy, I think Eric Thomas said, or somebody that I listened to, they said, if you don't know what you want to do, go and do something that you hate, because you're gonna be thinking about
Exactly.
the whole time, like, hey, I need to find something that I do want to
Exactly.
do.
And even in that thing that you love to do, you
Yeah.
still find your man, I'm not gonna do this. Like
Yeah.
me with my business, no pet portraits.
Yeah.
I'm not about to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tried it and I hated it.
Yeah.
So I've had to I still had to learn. Like it
Yeah.
never stops. Like
Yeah.
you're still gonna, be like, no. That's how you draw the line and you draw
Yeah.
boundaries within what
Yeah.
you do,
And then even like within your industry, like again, you kind of see what you're actually good at
Yeah.
and what you're like, oh, I can do it, but I don't like it. And then it's like, I'm my own boss. I
They-
can, yeah,
And
yeah, that's
and
the
and so
beauty
the
of it.
crazy thing, like with you saying that, sometimes I forget that, and I
Yeah.
think that it's like this big rule book that
Yeah.
says that I can't, and I
Yeah.
make the rules.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about that. And see, like now with this, uh like the setup and stuff, my wife helped me find these couches.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, so at first I had, if I told you about the story, so again, I'm not creative. So we have
Scott.
a detached garage, and I was like, I'm gonna make a podcasting table. So here goes me planning out the thing, and then just learning how to use tools and stuff. And it takes me like 5 months to build it, literally like 5 months.
Fine, that's almost half a year.
Yeah, because again, like I would
Yeah,
work on it after work or before work, or stuff didn't work out at first, and I would just toss it.
man.
Yeah, and finally, so like I get around to it. It's nice. I like it. I'm proud of
Yeah.
it for what it is. And then she's like, "Hey, I found these chairs for like $25 a pop if you want them." And I was like, "Yeah, let's just get those." And that's the table right now. I cut it in half.
It's not bad. What do
See,
you
see,
mean?
like I cut it in half because it was longer. I cut it in
It
half and
was
just kind of made it rework. But yeah, so like just trying to see what you like. And
exactly.
and my wife loves all that stuff, woodworking stuff, just
Oh wow.
painting,
So
just being
she's kind of like
creative.
me.
Yeah, just being creative. And for me, it's not like I'll help her and stuff, or I'll do it, but it's not what drives me. And
Right.
it's hard because as human beings, sometimes we kind of get settled just with a job, and it's like, yeah, we
Exactly.
we need a job for sure because we have bills, we have family to feed, but then we also have to keep growing to find that thing that gives us joy, that gives
Yeah.
us a sense of a fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's hard to just have a job and then it's like, oh, this is it. And especially now, so I have a little girl, and
And
I
she's
want,
gorgeous, by the
yeah, thank you.
way.
And she's a handful, but she'll see me in here and she's like, "Hey, daddy, you're gonna work." And as small as she is, she kind of sees that. So during the pandemic and stuff and everything getting shut down, a lot of people were getting laid off.
Yeah.
And some people that were getting unemployment kind of thing. And it was like, okay, so I was employed the whole time, which I was grateful for, because at first, you didn't know what was gonna happen.
Right.
And with that, I was being employed, and a lot of people that I would see, they're like, "Oh yeah, I got my unemployment, and I've been playing Call of Duty, all week." And I was like, "Yo, this is a chance
It's
for
a
you to
perfect
grow."
time. with this pandemic, it's the perfect time to figure out what you're the answer to.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
many
for
issues going
sure.
on.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the same people that were posting stuff like that are the same people that were complaining about their job or where they're at
Wow.
now. And so for me, that's why I decided I'm going to drop the podcast during this time, because when Sophia's older, when they talk about this at school because they're
Yeah.
going to, and she asked me, "Hey, what did you do during the pandemic?" Well, I got my life together and I started a podcast. I started talking to
Exactly.
people who have a passion, who have a drive, who want to keep growing,
Yeah.
and want her, I want her to be proud of her dad and not just be like, "Oh yeah, he worked at the same job for forever and never chased after his dreams because he was afraid, or you know
Exactly.
or or just afraid of what people are going to think."
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's awesome.
That is, man. That is.
Yeah, and so you figured out, you're like, "Hey, I'm good at this painting. I'm good at art." Um, did you feel that you could make money off of it or make a career from it, or were
Man,
you
I
like,
knew I couldn't make no money
"Yeah,
off no work.
yeah,
I mean, I think about it, all they talk about is starving
yeah,
artists. Even
yeah,
when I was like in high school, like everybody would be like, well, you could do this. You got graphic design, you
yeah,
got makeup artists,
yeah,
you got this, that,
yeah,
but you can't really make any money from it.
yeah,
But to be honest though, me having that mindset and also me having faith and
yeah,
what God can do, I knew that He could do the impossible.
yeah,
So I was just like, you know what, let me kind of take a step out and
yeah,
do this. And my first mural, well, not my first mural, but my first mural with the city of
yeah,
Huntsville. Not my first, not my last.
yeah.
That mural itself was almost $10,000.
Shoo,
So
that's awesome.
just picture for me to go from, and I'm only saying, because I'm
Yeah,
not the type of person to put out how
yeah,
much
yeah,
I make,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah,
only saying this because just going from the mindset of
yeah,
saying, man, like everybody around me is a starving artist,
yeah,
and I'm not gonna make any money
yeah,
to making this much with one piece of artwork.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and it pushes you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And even because there's always those people who are like, "Oh, why do you want to make whatever it is? Why do you want to make that much money? Why do you want to get up at 4? Why do you want to pursue art? There's no money in that, or it's hard, or if it was as easy, anyone can do it." There's always those people,
yeah,
and again, it's a mindset, to because especially now you see all these artists who blow up on Instagram or TikTok now, and just to be like, "Hey, like I'm doing this and you're still over there complaining about your situation, about
exactly.
your job." And sometimes they're probably just seeing that because they regret not finding their passion.
But it's never too late.
Yeah. And that's one thing that, it's like, it's really never too late, because again, even if you're 30, you might live till you're 80, so you have
Exactly.
50 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Conor McGregor, do you know who he is? He's a UFC
Mm-mm.
fighter. So a UFC fighter. And I listen to him a lot because just his mentality.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he's a kid from Ireland, from a neighborhood who kids from there don't make it. And
Wow.
when he finally started fighting, he's like, "Hey, I'm actually good at this." And he started pursuing, working at it. And there was always those people, "Hey, kids from your town never make it. Kids from Ireland don't become good fighters," or whatever.
Yeah.
And he kept pushing it and became UFC champion. And then he fights Floyd Mayweather.
Wow.
And it's like, this kid from Dublin, he never boxed in his life. He's a UFC fighter. Now he's fighting the one of the best boxing boxers in like history.
Wow.
And so you hear that, and it goes back to his mentality, because he always talks about that. "I always knew that if I worked hard enough, I could be
You
there."
can do it.
And from that Mayweather fight, he made $100 million.
Dang.
So he's like, "Hey, because I kept pushing, he 10 times his income." And he always talks and kind of gives quotes about that struggle and how he still has that chip on his shoulder,
Mhm.
to all those people that doubted him, that pushed him down. And he did an Instagram post, which I took a screenshot, and he said, some of you are going to be eating your words for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to be eating lobster for the rest of mine.
Wow.
And just he still has that mentality.
Yeah.
And I feel that whatever you want to pursue at whatever level of excellence or whatever level of achievements you want to do, you always have to have that mentality.
You do.
Because it's always, like Eric Thomas says, it's always you versus you.
Mm-hmm.
You're our biggest doubter. You're,
Biggest
I can't do it this. Yeah. And I love, man, that's awesome that at the spot you're, because even now, even back when we worked together, and the first time that I kind of found out that you were an artist, at the time you were doing hats.
Yeah, I forgot about those, man. And I had to stop just for me to elevate. I had to stop doing.
Yeah, and because it was funny because you came to work and you had like paint on your fingers or something, and I asked you, I was like, "Why do you have paint on your fingers?" And you're like, "Oh, I painted a hat for my brother or something." Or,
man, I used to be selling them at the restaurant.
And I was like, I didn't think anything of it until later on. You showed me like some of your art, the stuff you've done, and I was like, "Yo, that's really good." And you were like, "Yeah, like I know, like yeah." And it's crazy because a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, I do this," but then it's like, "Oh, there's levels to this." It's like levels to different crafts. It's like, "Oh, I do this,but then
and I'm not gonna lie, that's my biggest pet peeve with people. Like when I tell them, when I be like, "Hey, I paint, I'm an artist." Oh, I'm an artist too. I was painting on, this and that. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's a career. What I'm doing.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
crazy. I take it serious, man. Dang, I was bringing like books of hats, like hats. And I would ask the manager. I'd be like, "Hey, I gotta sell. Can I go in the background?"
That's crazy. And just seeing like that's what I love. That's people who I interacted with, people who I had somewhat of a relationship, just to being able to see them succeed.
Yeah.
Because especially the restaurant industry will suck the life out of you.
Man, we would talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And especially like there was those times during Christmas when we were slammed having half the restaurant. And we would make good money, but then afterwards you're like, yo. Like,
hey, we could barely walk. Like we were so tired.
And I wanna bring this up, but remember there was this one time we worked all day probably, but this was during when Wes was still working. Wes, he used to bartend.
Dang, I remember Wes.
And then we saw him walking out to his car. Do you remember that he was like limping and like all person? That was crazy.
Man, we used to see everybody go through it. Like, man.
Yeah, but it's awesome. And as human beings, whether, because like a lot of people don't want to be their own bosses or anything like that. And they just want to be able to support their family.
Yeah.
And that's good too.
Yeah.
But as we always have to keep wanting to grow.
Exactly.
Have to, and even if you're like, hey, I have this job and pays my bills, I'm happy, but then I have this thing that gives me joy.
Yeah, because even with that, like sometimes, having a career is that's where your purpose is. Because that's something I had to learn. Because I'm an entrepreneur, but my husband, he's part entrepreneur and he has a career. He's an engineer. And he works, for the Arsenal. So like with that being said, I had to kind of, when we got married, I had to kind of look at that and be like, look, like he's growing. He's happy here. He has purpose here.
Yeah.
Like even though, he very talented, he's a musician, he does all these different things, but this is where his purpose is, being an engineer, so.
And that's so true, because a lot of people, they'll, like, I saw you do a post or repost a post about how some people push entrepreneurship to people. And in a sense, I always, like, I would read books and that kind of pushed that. And so for a little bit, I had a mindset that, oh, you have to be an
me
entrepreneur.
too.
Yeah. And then I started, just educating myself. And it's like, no, you can have a career doing whatever and have a side hustle.
And create legacy too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, not everyone are meant to be entrepreneurs or, be self-employed. but whatever you do, just try to be the best at it, bring joy
Exactly.
to you, and then yeah, leave a legacy
Hmm.
to where your kid, it's like, yo, my dad was an engineer, but he did his best to be the best engineer that he
Exactly.
could be. And
Exactly.
that way it also pushes them to be like, hey, my dad wasn't, just a mediocre human being,
Yeah.
but that's awesome.
That's the goal, man. That's the goal.
Yeah. And your latest piece that you did, Frida Kahlo.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
man.
So before that one, I saw you do a piece with flowers. You
Which
know.
piece of flowers? Was it the lungs?
Oh yes, yes, the
If
lungs.
yeah,
That one, my
breath of
my wife
life.
tagged me and she's like, "Yo, look at this."
Yeah,
That was
she said she
Yeah,
loved
that
that
was
one.
awesome. And then you did the Frida Kahlo with flowers as
Hmm.
well. But where did that inspiration come from?
Man, I watched the movie.
Oh, for real?
Like and that's the crazy thing. Like I will always watch artists and people like paint
Yeah,
Frida, but I'll just be like, it's a trend. Like
yeah,
why y'all,
yeah, yeah,
keep,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
painting her. I ended up watching the movie and just, a documentary of her, and I was like, wow.
yeah,
Like she was a really dope person
yeah,
because she had a medical condition. I
yeah,
think it affected her like walking and
yeah,
such, and she was in bad relationships. Like she was such a flawed, like us.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
She was such a flawed person, but she was so freaking talented. And like that itself just made her so strong and so
yeah,
confident. And it encouraged me. And I was just like, I really want to like, I want to paint her.
yeah,
But I want to make her like, just with the painting itself, I wanted to illustrate her beauty and her
yeah,
confidence. So that's where the flowers came from.
yeah.
I've
Awesome.
been trying to try out like
Yeah,
different mediums and
yeah.
stuff. So
And I'll be honest with you. Um, I've heard of Frida, right?
mhm.
So one, it's gonna show how ignorant I am. I thought that people were just painting her. I didn't even know she was an artist.
Why? See,
Yeah,
but you're right.
yeah,
I was the same way because people
yeah,
stuff when people love hopping on the bandwagon
yeah, yeah,
and somebody sees this person paint Frida. Oh, I want to paint her
yeah,
too. She has a unibrow.
yeah,
She has a mustache.
yeah,
Like she's like she's
yeah.
different. I want to paint her, but it's more behind her though.
Yeah, see, and so one, yeah, I didn't know she was an artist,
Yeah.
and then two, I didn't even know she was Mexican.
Right.
So I saw you paint it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I've seen other stuff in Frida, and you hear people talk about it, kind of
Hmm.
thing. But then I did a little research. I was like, oh well, let me
Yeah.
look
Did you
into
see
her.
the self
And
portraits?
yeah, and then the way that, and the crazy thing about it is, I looked into it, and they're like, oh yeah, she was born in wherever in Mexico, Jalisco or something. And I was like, wait, she's Mexican. And then after that, I was like, wait, we have a famous Mexican
Yeah.
artist. So then after that, I started looking into her and how she had paleo when she was younger or something,
Yeah.
and again made her like give her disabilities, and then she
Hmm.
got hit by a car,
Yeah.
and so I was like, this is a female who faced adversity and just
Bruh.
life
To the
struggles.
fullest. Like we
Yeah.
ain't even went through some of that
Yeah,
stuff.
and then that transitioned into her art.
Hmm.
And I started looking at other of her stuff and how raw and just
And she literally
honest.
painted her pain.
Yeah.
Like that. That's the crazy thing.
See, like,
about
because
it.
I listened to like a 45-minute documentary on
Documentary.
documentary. There you
It's
go.
all right. We all get tongue tied.
About her and how she had multiple miscarriages.
Yeah.
And then she did that picture where she's in the bed and all this stuff, and it's just raw.
Yeah.
It's honest, and you look at it and you kind of feel her pain in a sense,
Exactly.
which was weird because I've never been that kind of person that looks into art or tries to understand art. I'll see art and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It looks cool or whatever. But yeah, it was crazy. And then as a female, artists back in that time weren't out and big as how she became.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then she's a woman of color too.
Yes.
That's what's
And
most
then how
important.
she went to Chicago and like her husband's like, yo, she's really good. And I think she went to Paris and all this stuff. It's like,
and
yo.
her husband had an affair on her.
Yeah.
She cheated on her husband.
Yeah, like
it was,
she did have a complicated life.
yeah,
But
very complicated.
just as an artist, and you see how adversity hits everyone. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter who you are.
Exactly.
And the
It
way she
shouldn't
pushed,
stop you.
yeah. And then again, she took pride in herself because the unibrow is iconic.
Yeah.
Everyone sees her self portraits and they see the unibrow and they're like, hey, that's free that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
And even
awesome.
like Chadwick,
Yeah.
like how they talked about how this man, had cancer for years
Uh
and
huh.
he was going out,
Yeah. And
talking to other kids with
yeah,
cancer.
and it's crazy because I've I've always been the kind of person who it doesn't matter who he is. If they're great at their craft, I want to
Exactly.
learn from them.
Exactly.
And Eric Thomas did a thing about him and how he did 7 movies, you know, struggling and battling cancer.
Wow.
And he said, "Don't come with me with your problems.
Exactly.
Don't come at me with, your excuses." Because this man was battling cancer and did 7 movies.
And nothing stopped him.
And then we're over here talking about like, oh, it's hard.
Oh, I'm not making no money.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I'm not
And
doing this.
yeah. And I feel that all that ties back to, your mentality.
Yeah.
Because if you keep saying, oh, this thing's gonna be hard, or I can't do it, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not seeing the profits or the
Hmm.
benefit, you're never gonna evolve or grow.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I used to be that person.
Yeah.
So I understand.
And yeah, like even for me, like it's one thing I feel like it's one thing that we always struggle with, regardless, even if you're successful or trying to evolve in learning, a different attribute to your craft.
Yeah.
We're always gonna feel struggles or difficulties. But I feel that it's if you face them, it's a sign that you are growing.
Exactly.
Because if you're always just comfortable, you just plateaued and
And everything's always easy for
yeah,
you.
yeah, for sure.
Absolutely right.
But yeah, and yeah, it's crazy because I heard, the story of Chadwick, because a lot of people towards the end, I heard how they were like clowning him, how he was losing weight, and they
Yeah.
didn't know his struggle.
They didn't, and he was still quiet about
He
it.
was still quiet about it.
Because at that point, you would have been like, "All right, y'all, look, I'm
Yeah,
sick," but
yeah,
he didn't do anything about it.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy. But yeah, and well, Daria, I think we're gonna wrap it.
All right.
But thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. But if there was one thing that you could say to someone who is struggling, or they're like, hey, this is what I want to do, but I'm afraid. I don't have the support. I don't have the knowledge, because I
Yeah.
feel like that's one thing that as you're growing as a business person, or if you want to exceed in whatever, you always have to keep learning as well.
Yeah.
What would be something that you would tell them? What would be something that you would tell your younger self?
Tell me, dang, now that's different. Tell my younger self, to have grace for myself, man.
Yeah.
Really, because with this journey of like purpose, it gets hard, and when with it getting hard, you get hard on yourself, and you feel like all you see is time.
Yeah.
I gotta do this, I gotta get that done, I
Yeah.
gotta do this. But when it comes to purpose too, like have grace for yourself,
Yeah.
because as long as you're trying, as long as you're striving, as long as you're doing what it takes to get to that thing, like you're doing your part.
Yeah, yeah.
Let God do his thing. Like
Yeah.
you're doing your part. It's a lot of people that's overworking. It's a
Yeah.
lot of people that's worrying about work and not about their family, like what we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about.
yeah.
It's a lot of people making mistakes because they feel like they're losing time.
Yeah.
And so just have grace for yourself and just
Yeah.
go with the flow. Like let stuff like relationships and friendships,
Mhm.
let stuff naturally happen.
Yeah.
Don't force it.
Mhm.
So that's what I would tell people, and that's what I tell myself.
Cool. Yeah, and even I feel that sometimes we kind of see time go, and you're just
Yeah.
like, man, it's another year, but it's all about little steps.
Exactly.
Little steps. Because sometimes I feel that we want to take huge steps and it becomes a bigger struggle, bigger
Yeah.
things to face, and it's just little steps, to keep growing. But
Yeah.
awesome, Derry. Thank you for being here
No,
again.
thank you. Thank you for the
And
opportunity.
yeah, and definitely hopefully bring you on in the future.
Yeah,
See
of
how you're
course.
still evolving. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast as well, to show people that hey, there's other individuals out there that are, facing life just like
Yeah.
you are, but they've decided to pursue their passion, pursue, their dreams, or just decide to grow.
Yeah.
Because we are surrounded with so much negativity, and again, people who tell us, or even ourselves, that hey, you can't do that because you're from this neighborhood, or you can't do this because you have this kind of background, or
Mhm.
you can't do this because you weren't, born in, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like we have to help each other to stay motivated
Exactly. Because
and
even
keep
ourselves
going.
can tell our,
Yeah,
I can tell myself that
yeah,
and discourage my own
yeah.
self. So
But
yeah, absolutely right.
but all right, awesome. We'll end it on that.
Okay.
And all right, thank you for being here.
You're
Cool.
welcome. Thank
All
you.
right, awesome.
All right.